Count Dooku, a Force-sensitive Serenian human male, was a Jedi Master who fell to the dark side of the Force, and became the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Tyranus, during the final years of the Galactic Republic. After leaving the Jedi Order, he served as head of state of the Confederacy of Independent Systems during the Clone Wars. He was the second apprentice of Darth Sidious, the Dark Lord of the Sith, whose plan to conquer the galaxy relied on Dooku leading a pan-galactic secessionist movement against the Republic. As such, Dooku immersed himself in the dark side and worked tirelessly to advance his and his master's plan, but ultimately forgot that treachery was the way of the Sith, while also being unaware that he was just a pawn of his master. During his 83 years of life, Dooku had many apprentices during his time as both a Jedi and a Sith. His first apprentice, Rael Aveross, was born on the planet Ringo Vinda during the era of the Galactic Republic. He was inducted into the Jedi Order when he was 5 years old. He completed his training in the ways of the Force as the Padawan of Jedi Master Dooku, but had difficulty conforming to the Jedi Code. With time, Aveross had earned a reputation amongst members of the Order as a famous duelist. At some point after his apprenticeship with Dooku finished, Aveross joined him in instructing a clan of Jedi initiates, where Aveross convinced Dooku to join him in a lightsaber duel. Aveross once joined Dooku and his second apprentice, Qui-Gon Jinn, in a battle on the planet of Shurapak. Aveross and Jinn formed a close connection, with Aveross serving as a friend and mentor to Jinn. Their connection was close to the point that Jinn confided in Aveross that Dooku had tortured Shenda Mal on Numidian Prime, though at the time Aveross expressed that he was not at all concerned with his former master's conduct. At some point before the invasion of Naboo, Aveross had an apprentice of his own, the Thalothian Nim Piana. In 48 BBY, Aveross and Piana were assigned to protect the freighter Advent from pirates, but its crew mutinied and ended up hitting Piana with a slicer dart. Aveross was reluctantly forced to strike down his apprentice after the nanotechnology in the dart took control of her brain functions, which forced her to attack him. The Jedi High Council cleared Aveross for the incident, although Aveross believed himself to be responsible for what had happened. However, his presence alone became distracting for the Council, which prompted them to send him on another assignment to keep him far from the temple. This mission would send him to the planet Pajal, where Aveross was sent to assume the regency until Crown Princess Fannery became of age to lead the planet. The Council believed that caring for a young girl and ensuring the correct rule of a planet would be the right mission for Aveross following the events on the Advent. Aveross was quickly confronted by the varying interests competing for influence on Pajal, including the influential Zerka Corporation, a private conglomerate which had grown to such size and power in the Outer Rim and unaligned worlds that it was said to be as powerful as the Galactic Senate. The corporation had been doing business on Pajal for so long that its sector supervisors had gained permanent positions at the court. Nevertheless, Zerka's presence was also controversial, notably due to its heavy involvement in the slave trade. As tensions escalated between the Pajal monarchy and Zerka arms, Aveross requested the assistance of Qui-Gon Jinn, also a former student at Dooku, and his Padawan, Obi-Wan Kenobi, to settle the political dispute. After resolving the political dispute on Pajal, Rael succeeded in reaching his former master, who shared with him that he had discovered a great power that he wished to share with Aveross. However, Aveross rebuffed Dooku's offer, and before cutting his transmission, informed his former master that he had chosen the light and was not interested in what Dooku had to offer. Dooku's next apprentice, Qui-Gon Jinn, was a Force-sensitive human male born on the core world Coruscant, the capital of the Galactic Republic, around 80 BBY. Jinn eventually learned the ways of the Force as the Padawan of Jedi Master Dooku, before ultimately attaining the rank of Jedi Knight and taking on an apprentice of his own, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Although their relationship was sometimes tough, the two Jedi overcame early difficulties during the mission to Pajal, which concluded in Jinn turning down a request to join the Jedi Council to continue teaching his apprentice. Over the years, he became a wise and well-respected member of the Jedi Order. Adhering to a philosophy centered around the living Force, Jinn strove to follow the will of the Force even when his actions conflicted with the wishes of the High Council. When the Trade Federation initiated a blockade of the mid-rim planet Naboo in 32 BBY, Jinn and Kenobi were dispatched to resolve the crisis at the request of Supreme Chancellor Finus Valorum. Influenced by the mysterious Sith Lord Darth Sidious, the Federation launched a full-scale invasion of Naboo, forcing the Jedi to rescue Queen Amidala. During their journey to the galactic capital, the group was forced to land on the Outer Rim planet Tatooine, where Jinn encountered a young slave named Anakin Skywalker, who he learned had more midichlorians in his blood than any Force-sensitive in galactic history. The revelation that he was the result of a miracle birth, a child born of a mother but had no father, confirmed Jinn's suspicion that Skywalker was the Chosen One, destined to restore balance to the Force. At the temple, Jinn was adamant that Skywalker was the Chosen One, and should, therefore, be inducted into the Order. However, having inspected Skywalker for themselves, the High Council deemed him too old, emotional, and dangerously full of fear and anger. Forced to return back to Naboo, Jinn and Kenobi confronted the newly revealed Sith Lord Darth Maul together. While they initially managed to fend off the Sith Lord's attacks, Master and Apprentice were eventually separated during the lightsaber duel, resulting in Jinn sustaining a mortal injury. Rushing to his master's aid, Kenobi fought and ultimately defeated the Sith, but could not save his master. With his last breath, Jinn made Kenobi promise that he would take Skywalker as his apprentice. Having secured Kenobi's word, Jinn became one with the Force, dying with the certainty that he had found the prophesied Chosen One. Dooku later trained a female Force-sensitive individual who lived during the Republic era and served as a Padawan of the Jedi Order. At some point, the Jedi trainee fell to the dark side of the Force, and she came to own two identical red-bladed lightsabers with a curved hilt. Sometime later, she was eliminated for being an embarrassment, and her lightsabers remained in Darth Tyrannus' possession for years until he gave them both to Asajj Ventress. Dooku's first apprentice after leaving the Jedi Order came in the form of the Kaleesh male warlord named Grievous. Born Kiman J. Shali, a native of the Kaleesh, Shali grew to become a fearsome warrior and warlord of his people. He gained an aptitude for warfare and battle tactics during the Kaleesh's war against the Yamri people of the planet Hook. As Shalal adopted the moniker Grievous and began conquests off-world, his bloody reputation eventually reached the ears of the Sith Lords Darth Sidious and Darth Tyranus, also known as Dooku. Grievous had been joined in battle for many years by the Kaleesh's greatest warriors, called the Azvashra. Accompanied by his companions, he pushed back the Yamri from their world until the Yamri sought the Republic for assistance, and hundreds of thousands of Kaleesh were left to starve, which led to the upbringing of the warlord's personal vendetta against the Galactic Republic and the Jedi, as they supported the Yamri in their war. His grudge led him to ally himself with the intergalactic banking clan. By that time, Count Dooku had noticed Grievous's actions and had big intentions for him as well. Sometime later, members of the Executive Separatist Council, led by Count Dooku, in a bid to make Grievous a subservient tool of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, sabotaged his shuttle, resulting in a gruesome crash that left the man on the brink of death. Extensive repairs were made to his destroyed body, forging him into a powerful cyborg warrior consisting of his brain, eyes, and vital organs residing in a mechanical shell. The reconstructed Grievous became a skilled lightsaber duelist under Dooku's guidance, who trained the Kaleesh in the arts of the lightsaber combat and eventually welcomed him into a position as a warrior in the Confederacy. Over time, the Kaleesh warrior made intense alterations and enhancements to his cybernetic body. Grievous was soon granted the rank of general, as well as the title as Supreme Marshal Commander of the Separatist droid armies, making him the most powerful person within the Separatists, under only Dooku. Grievous wielded his skills as a brilliant military strategist and melee combatant during the numerous campaigns against the Republic throughout the Clone Wars, while also gaining a reputation for hunting and killing Jedi Knights. He made a habit of claiming the lightsabers of defeated Jedi as trophies and weapons to be used against other opponents. His position and threat level led to the preeminence as one of the Republic's primary targets throughout the course of the war. Towards the end of the war, in 19 BBY, Grievous, under orders from Darth Sidious, launched a daring and unprecedented assault on the planet Coruscant, the capital world of the Republic. In his assault, the Kaleesh managed to take the Republic's Supreme Chancellor, Sheev Palpatine, captive aboard his flagship. However, during the battle, the Chancellor was rescued by Jedi Generals Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, an engagement that also resulted in Dooku's death. Subsequently, Grievous became the de facto leader of the entire Separatist alliance and immediately withdrew all remaining reinforcements and fled into the Outer Rim territories, prolonging the war. Following the Battle of Coruscant, Grievous retreated to the planet Utapau, where he addressed and relocated the members of the Executive Separatist Council to the planet Mustafar under Sidious's orders. However, unknown to the general, Grievous's location on Utapau was betrayed by Sidious, resulting in a Republic invasion of the planet in an effort to bring a decisive conclusion to the war. As a result, following a prolonged chase between the two, Grievous was ultimately slain by General Kenobi, which resulted in the war's conclusion as well as the Confederacy's systematic collapse. Asajj Ventress was another apprentice that Dooku took on during the Clone Wars. Asajj Ventress was a Dathomirian female who was, at various points during her life, a slave, a Jedi Padawan, an assassin of the Sith, a Night Sister, and a bounty hunter. In the final decades of the Galactic Republic's reign, Ventress was born into the clan of Force-sensitive Night Sister witches led by Mother Talzin on the planet Dathomir. Early in her life, her coven was forced to surrender Ventress to the criminal Halstead, who spirited Ventress away from her sisters to the war-torn world of Ratatak, where she was raised as a slave in his service. She was orphaned when her master was killed by Weequay pirates, but was later discovered by the Jedi Knight Kai Narok, who was stranded on Ratatak when waging a battle against the pirate marauders. Narok raised Ventress and taught her to use the Force, and together they protected the populace of Ratatak and fought back against the predatory attacks of pirates and warlords. After a decade of helping the local population, Ventress was orphaned once more when Narok was killed by pirates, seeking to end the Jedi's crusade on their world. Enraged by the loss and bereft of guidance, Ventress embraced the dark side of the Force, deposing the local warlords and ruling in their stead. She was ultimately captured while attempting to assassinate the warlord Osika Kuruske, who forced her to fight as a gladiator in the arena. She was eventually discovered by Sith Lord Count Dooku, and fell under his guidance and tutelage as a dark acolyte and aspiring apprentice. When the Clone Wars erupted, Ventress became a commander in her master's separatist droid military and an assassin in the employ of the Sith. Her exploits brought her into conflict with the Jedi Order, and she became renowned for her skill and cruelty as she waged war against the Republic. Although she was highly talented and saw success in multiple missions, Ventress was repeatedly forced to compete for her master's favor against General Grievous. As the war progressed, Dooku's own master, Darth Sidious, became increasingly wary of Ventress's growing strength in the Force, and ultimately ordered the Confederate leader to eliminate his apprentice in a show of loyalty. Dooku complied, and during the Battle of Sullust, betrayed Ventress and ordered her own forces to execute her. Left for dead, Ventress survived and clawed her way back to her homeworld of Dathomir to seek refuge and revenge. Mother Talzin and her coven welcomed Ventress back to their sisterhood, and together they conspired to kill Dooku. After a failed attempt to assassinate the Count, Ventress and Talzin moved to install a pawn of their own close to Dooku as his new assassin and apprentice. To that end, Ventress selected the Zabrak Knight brother Savage Opress to be gifted to Dooku and eventually to aid her in his murder. This plan also went awry after Opress betrayed both Ventress and Dooku and nearly killed them both. Resolving to make a new life for herself, Ventress returned to Dathomir to formally rejoin her clan and forego further plans for revenge. But Dooku would not have it. The Count targeted the Night Sisters for harboring his former apprentice and dispatched Grievous and his droid army to massacre the Dathomirian witches. Mother Talzin and Ventress were among the few survivors of the slaughter and were forced to separately flee Dathomir to escape Dooku's wrath. Ventress was deeply hurt by the loss of her newfound family, and so took to wandering the galaxy in search of a purpose, ultimately turning to bounty hunting, and finding a good measure of success in the business. Near the end of the Clone Wars, she encountered Quinlan Vos, a Jedi Master tasked with assassinating Count Dooku to end the war. Vos partnered with Ventress under the guise of a fellow bounty hunter, but ultimately revealed his identity and purpose after the two fell in love. Ventress trained Vos in Night Sister culture and darkside skills to prepare for a strike against Dooku, but their attempt to kill the Count failed, and she was forced to flee while he was taken into Confederate custody. She eventually worked with Kenobi and Skywalker to rescue Vos, but months of torture at Dooku's hand had turned him to the dark side. Although Ventress sensed his fall, Vos refused to believe his own darkness and was again sent to kill Dooku by the Jedi Council. She joined him on the final mission, but it was met with failure when Vos gave himself fully to the dark side. Ventress reluctantly helped Vos and Dooku in fleeing from Jedi pursuit, but refused to embrace the dark side once more. Instead, she sacrificed herself when Dooku attempted to kill Vos with Force lightning by absorbing the blast to protect her lover. Her death finally motivated Vos to renounce the dark side, and she was honored for her sacrifice by the Jedi Council. Ventress's body was later laid to rest in the waters of her clan's village on Dathomir. As mentioned before, Savage Opress was a Force-sensitive Dathomirian Knight Brother who became a Sith apprentice under Count Dooku and later became a Sith Lord, apprenticed to Maul, a renegade Sith Lord during the Clone Wars. Originally a tribal leader on Dathomir, Opress was handpicked by Night Sister Asajj Ventress as part of her bid for revenge on Count Dooku. Mother Talzin and her Night Sister witches employed their dark magic to grant Opress fearsome abilities, such as a strong, raw connection to the Force and domineering physical power. Opress entered the Clone Wars as a dark acolyte, serving as an enforcer in Dooku's Confederacy of Independent Systems. Immediately, Opress established himself as a dangerous warrior and a force to be reckoned with. However, Opress soon realized he was being used by Ventress, and when Ventress sprung the trap and tried to defeat Dooku, with his help, he betrayed both her and Dooku. He would return to Dathomir, where Mother Talzin sent him on a quest to seek his long-lost brother Maul. Opress was led to Lotho Minor, where he found his brother Maul, a deranged and broken shell of his former self. He brought his brother back to Dathomir, who restored both his mind and his legs. She then left the pair together as Maul became reconnected with the drastically changed galaxy around him. He and Opress then joined forces, embarking on a quest to exact revenge on Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, sowing death and chaos throughout the galaxy as they went. Eventually, Opress was forced to become his brother's apprentice in accordance with the Rule of Two. After Opress lost his arm in battle against Kenobi on Florum, the pair fled and eventually allied themselves with Pre Vizsla and Death Watch. Opress continued to serve his brother's vision as Maul created the Shadow Collective. Their new power conquered Mandalore and killed Duchess Satine Kryze. Opress stood by his brother as he enacted his revenge, but they were soon faced by Darth Sidious, who had judged the pair to be a significant threat. Sidious dueled Maul and Savage and ultimately slew Opress in battle. His final apprentice before he was killed at the hands of Anakin Skywalker above Coruscant, Quinlan Vos was a Kafar male Jedi Master who lived during the final days of the Galactic Republic. Hailing from the planet Kifu, he was a maverick within the Jedi Order and garnered a reputation for bending the rules. He was renowned for his retrocognition, perceiving others' memories when touching objects they had contacted. Due to this ability, Vos was an expert tracker. Many of his missions took him into the criminal underworld. On one such mission, he met Aayla Secura and thereafter accepted her as his Padawan. Later in the Clone Wars, Vos partnered with Asajj Ventress, a former darkside assassin. The duo was unsuccessful in their attempt to assassinate Sith Lord Count Dooku, the leader of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. In an attempt to uncover the identity of Dooku's master, Darth Sidious, Vos succumbed to the dark side and became Dooku's apprentice, serving the Confederacy as Admiral Enigma. However, he was brought back to the light side of the Force by his love for Ventress. During the final days of the war, Vos moved his Republic troops to Baz Pity. After the fall of the Jedi Order, Vos survived the Great Jedi Purge, along with his new lover, Colleen Hetz, and was amongst those the Galactic Empire presumed to have survived and thus targeted to hunt down. 10 years into the reign of the Empire, Vos assisted a network that resisted the Empire and helped fugitive Jedi and Force-sensitive escape to the Jabim. Let me know which apprentice intrigues you the most, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Remember to like the video, and subscribe for more lore deep dives like this, as well as news reports, reviews, breakdowns, and more. Thank you all for watching, and remember, the Force will be with you, always.